Hi, Cedric. Welcome on UBP Podcast.
Good afternoon, Rachel.
Can you say that Abenomics are a success?
Yes, we can say it's a success so far, and this comes and is linked to the fact that the two first arrows of the Abenomics have been very successful. The first one, which is linked to the quantitative easing, which has been triggered by the Bank of Japan, has driven the yen in a territory where it helps a lot of companies in Japan. And the second arrow, which is the one linked to the fiscal policy, is also driving a lot of changes in Japan. When it comes to the third arrow, there are more questions. The reason being that it's more difficult to change the culture of Japanese companies, but also to invigorate reforms in Japan. But so far, we've seen a lot of changes that have been successful. The first one being the changes for the GPIF, the big pension fund, the government pension fund in Japan, which has increased its exposure to Japanese companies, but in the other end, forcing those companies to adopt a better corporate governance. And this is really a change we were expecting for Japan, and that will probably narrow the discount Japanese companies have been trading at compared to European and US companies.
You state that the topics can return to its 2000 level within the next 2 years. Can you explain why?
I think it's also linked to this change in corporate governance. The first thing is that when we compare developed markets, we've seen that US equities and European equities are well above their historical high. It's not the case for Japan. Of course, if we take into account the highs of the mid-90s, this is not realistic tops that the market should head to. But when we consider 2007 and topics which was in the neighborhood of 1800, then it's achievable. Why is it achievable? First, because the yen is helping a lot of exporters. Second is because the mindset of Japanese people is changing and people are consuming again, and this will help a lot domestic Japanese companies. And the third one is really this corporate governance change that will also allow more investors to invest into Japanese equities.
And finally, in your opinion, what are the drivers of the recovery?
I think the main driver is really Abe as a leader, as a driver of change, and this is something Japan has lacked for a number of years. Another driver is really the change in the mindset of people. They believe that Abe will be successful, and they are keen on helping each and everyone at her level in terms of consumption, but also in terms of for the entrepreneurs to change their policy and to change also the way they reward shareholders, minority shareholders, but also the big stakeholders that the institutional Japanese companies are. Another driver is really the fact that Japan sits in the heart of Asia, and despite the fact that China is slowing, it's still the fastest growing area in the world. And we do believe that Japan has a lot of advantages being based in Asia and also being at the edge in many sectors, especially in the automation.
Thank you, Cedric, for your time.
Thank you, Rachel.